The camera was actually borrowed from a friend of mine, Jim Armstrong, who actually wrote the musical score for the film. And the sound equipment we rented on a day-by-day basis whenever we needed it from a company here in town called Long and McQuaid. In terms of the crew, we had none. The one thing I find about shooting here in Toronto is that if you're open and honest with people about your intent, saying, you know, I've got this really low budget film, blah blah blah, and 9 times out of 10 they will stand up for you. Taste of the Silk Road restaurant was a perfect example. I phoned them up, was talking to them a bit, let them know what we were doing, and they were like, yeah, sure, fine. We close at this time. We're usually out about an hour later after we do all the cleanup and all this. But in that time, sure, come in. And we ended up shooting the restaurant scene between Gwen and Peter at that restaurant at that time.
I mean, we built up the character of Henga because the minute that you watch Edgar George on the screen, you were interested. This originally was the Gwen character's movie. It was originally her film, and we were supposed to follow her. We realized sort of halfway through the film that the most interesting character on screen was by and large Henga. Here's a Muslim, a faithful Muslim black African police detective. We don't see that a lot. We wanted to explore this guy. We wanted to make this guy the hero and give attention to him. And fortunately, we had a very talented, gifted actor who could do marvelous things with that. This became a very much more of a collaboration with my director because he was brilliant in terms of coming up with some wonderful ideas that I didn't think of. Originally in the movie, there's a body that is supposed to fall out. Well, Tom Canton comes up with this incredibly creepy scene, which I didn't think of, and it's there, and that's his contribution.
Some of the things we did intentionally to improve on what we did. When they're on the bed, Peter comes up behind her and garrots her. That was me misreading Jeff's script.
Oh, okay. Collaboratively, it was really amazing working with Tom because I've worked with Tom in the past, and I mean, he knows filmmaking, and his ideas. I'm always like one of those little dogs. Yeah, let's try this because I trust his eye, right? I do. I trust Tom very much, and so it was liberating for me as an actor to go, okay, I'd like to try this, and Tom would be like, oh yeah, okay, and we would try it. If it didn't work, then we'd reshoot it. So
I come from 10 years of having trained in Shotokan karate, and I like to think I know a little bit more about the realism of the fighting, and so we wanted that raw, hard sort of no, it's not pretty. No, you're not dancing up walls to get away. No, if somebody hits you, it's going to hurt and you're going to go down.
In previous movies I've been able to, I've been able to like shoot a gun and all that, but I've never been able to do hand-to-hand combat. And there were moments in there where the adrenaline was going and my fellow actor slash writer wanted me to do certain things, and I was so concerned about hitting him, but once we got into it, it was like a dance, and it was beautiful, and I really enjoyed that.
I had done fight scenes on stage. I had never really done anything for the screen before. So that was a little challenging because on stage it's a lot more forgiving because the audience is much further away. So you don't have to be that precise with your movements because the camera's not that close up on you. So, and also not having rehearsal time, fight choreographers, all of those things. But Jeff was great. He has a background in martial arts, and he guided me through all the fight scenes and had a lot of patience. And I think I pulled it off.
This was supposed to be a very serious, taut thriller, and yet at the same time we had episodes with just unintentional slapstick that we never intended.
The story that comes to mind the most, most vividly in my mind, is when we were at the harbor front shooting.
So I realized that the only way that Gwen could get away was if Peter went into the lake. He had to go into the water, otherwise she couldn't escape. It wouldn't make sense.
I was having a struggle with Jeff, and he whispers to me, cameras are rolling, and he whispers to me, just throw me in, it'll look great, throw me in. And I'm like, no, I can't throw you in. It's not safe. And Tom behind the camera could hear us. He's like, no, throw him in, it'll look great.
So Jeff tells Jennifer, just grab me, throw me into the lake. I'm going, okay.
So we're struggling. And, these two guys, bullying me. I finally throw Jeff in the water.
Jeff goes in with a resounding splash.
And we get the shot, which was fantastic. And then Jeff had trouble climbing out of the water. For some reason, I think there was moss and it was slippery.
And I couldn't get out of the water. For some reason, there was no way to climb up.
Tries to get back up. Has trouble.
And no one, not myself, not Tom Canton, the director, not Jennifer Lieberman, the star, notices that there's a big RCMP boat directly across from us with letters big as bold.
Saw the whole incident. And they came over and they fished Jeff out of the water and they start grilling us about why we're there, what we're doing.
What we didn't realize is that the harbors had become federal jurisdiction after 9/11.
We discovered that it is illegal to go swimming or diving in harborfront and faced by a penalty of something like 5 years in jail or a hefty fine.
They saw me push him in. So, either I broke the law or he was, assaulting me.
So Jennifer and I are rattling off this insane story.
Tom came up with some crazy story off the cuff that he was making a goodbye video for a friend of his who was moving to Romania.
A couple friends of ours were going to go away to Portugal.
So we're doing all these skits, to send a tape with him to remember his friends when he goes.
And everything was going on fine. Much to my shock and amazement, Jennifer and I were not contradicting one another at all. We're actually just building on everything.
And the cop is busy looking at this with poker eyes. And then after a brief moment, he says, "What's it about?" And Tom and Jen are suddenly doze in the headlights and freeze.
And Jennifer and I froze. And Jeff's behind us just looking at us, just shaking his head.
And I'm standing off to the side going, wait a minute, I'm the writer. I know what the hell it's about. And so I start saying, it's about this and blah, blah, blah. And my two cohorts, who nearly got me thrown into prison, relax and go.
So thank God they didn't confiscate the tape, because I think it had probably 3 days of shooting at that point. And they allowed us to get off, and I think Tom had to pay a fine somewhere probably around $100, maybe a little more.
When all is said and done, they slapped us with a $50 fine. That was actually part of the $200 budget, so we actually shot on $150. It was insane.
And we were able to walk free that day.
And that was the least of it. I go into the lake and I realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm chasing the girl and I should still be wet. It's been about an hour since this has happened, so I go into, trying to be a good actor, trying to, keep the integrity of the story. I go into a Sharper's Drug Mart and get a bottle of water to douse myself. Only it's scented water. It's this stinking, purple flavored thing. And now I stink like lilacs or something. And I've poured this over my head and I'm, whatever it is, creme de menthe flavor. And that's, we have my great love scene. I am supposed to pick Gwen up, Jen, fling her down on an oak table in a fit of passion, and plant one on her. Except that as I pick up my co-star and put her down the table, fling, she flies off the table, which is very nicely polished, and off she goes, and the whole table capsized. Oh, take two. And we're saying, Jen, are you okay? Pick up my co-star again, fling her passionately on the table. Fling, she flies off the table. To the point where our director has to literally pin down the table with his foot in order to get this wonderful passionate clinch. So that was an eye-opener. I don't normally think I'm cut out for vaudeville, but I guess I proved it on that occasion.